What's up, guys? Happy Memorial Day. It's a Monday. I know it's weird. It's not Tuesday. It's okay. I will still have a show tomorrow for you, but I want to talk about Memorial Day today because it's just such an important day to remember all of our fallen heroes. Before I start on that, I actually do want to have a nice segue into it. Top Gun Maverick. Definitely worth watching. For many reasons, it's fantastic. And I'm not going to give it away, but one thing it does very well that we don't see anymore is American exceptionalism put on display in Hollywood media. It does that. I can't even think of a movie in the past while that puts American exceptionalism on a display such as that. But it's good that it's there, and it leads us to this, which is talking about American exceptionalism through heroes of both, talk about World War II briefly, and then on to more modern heroes. When you talk about World War II, one of the craziest battles was definitely the Battle of the Bulge, where the 101st held out around Bastogne and the surrounding area, a vital town. And they held on for several days in the winter over Christmas with absolutely no cold weather gear, very little sleep, very little ammunition. When they were on the way and the cattle trucks being taken to Bastogne, they were passing all of these Americans who had gotten beat by the Germans and were retreating, and they were going to plug the gap. And they were shouting down to these soldiers saying, hey, send up your rifles, send up ammunition, send up anything that you can spare, because we're going to need them. And for more than a couple of weeks, they held out until General Patton, it wasn't a couple of weeks, it was a few days, but General Patton was able to reinforce them. They were not the only ones there. You had the 99th, who was on Elsenborn Ridge. Their story is amazing because they got shelled for days. They were in foxholes in the snow, no cold weather gear, for like 6 days. And they held off wave after wave of German, which it was a great tactical position. They were having to run up a hill that was wide open and fresh snow, and they just absolutely mowed them down. But they had to stay awake in their foxholes for several days. And both of these units, and many more in that time, lost a lot of their people. They should be remembered. Their acts of heroism should be remembered. But that's not the only heroics that go into American history. And you can go all the way back to the Revolutionary War, talk about people who were heroes of that, of George Washington and his army crossing the Delaware. And that's a great story, by the way. That also happened on Christmas Eve. And I love the American fighting spirit that shows. That's something that America has lost. That's the American exceptionalism that has been lost in this culture we live in, that is very much getting softer and softer and putting less of a premium on those, qualities, the qualities of loyalty, duty, honor, respect, selfless service. If you're in the Army, you might recognize that list. Also, I didn't finish it. That's okay. Do it off the top of my head. Got to go over it more. But I do want to talk about some modern heroes from the war in Afghanistan and the war in Iraq. And these are all guys who were posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor. I want to read some of their citations, some of what's in their citations, because on this day of remembrance, we should remember, the military members who died and remember their excellence. So the first service member I want to talk about is Sergeant First Class Salise. And if you read into his, which I didn't realize there was a whole website, just all of the Medal of Honor recipients with the citation notes in it. And it really, truly amazing stories. This one, you read down, says, realizing the danger the attack posed to his team in the operation, Sergeant First Class Salise voluntarily exposed himself to intense enemy machine gun and small arms fire to retrieve and employ a heavy weapon system, thereby allowing U.S. and partner forces, the Afghan National Army, to regain the initiative. This is after they had been ambushed. maneuver to a secure location and begin treatment of critically wounded partnered force of a critically wounded partnered force member. Now let me set the stage for you because this is very dry language that's used for an award. They were on a patrol and they were attacked from a very well defended or a well covered enemy. They had great cover. And when it says machine gun and small arms fire, you're talking about Russian PPKs and I think that's right. And AK-47s. Now that's I'm trying to come up with an idea, but that's hundreds of rounds potentially that are coming in. Hundreds of rounds that are zipping past you. And the fact that he ran into and exposed himself to this fire to get on a heavy weapon system, that's just crazy in of itself. That is being, I mean, I imagine at the shortest distance, he had to cross 10 to 15 meters to go from his concealed position, which behind, I would assume, some sort of vehicle or maybe a wall. And I imagine he had to run 10 to 15 meters with all of the bullets going towards him to get to that, which is, I mean, a little terrifying. Also, an amazing act of courage, and it doesn't end there. Moving on, it says, as the casualty moved from a position of cover and out into intense enemy fire, Sergeant First Class Salih made a conscious effort to ensure his body acted as a physical shield to his team carrying the casualty and the crew of the aircraft. So not only was he having to make this rush to where, at this point, a helicopter was landing, so who knows how far out that was in the open. Not only just did he run across that, which is a relatively safe thing to do, even in combat because you're moving, it is hard to hit a moving target. You can still be hit, but it is not the easiest to hit that moving target. No, he stayed there and consciously stood in front of his team, probably 4 guys carrying another guy on a litter, which is not fast. I've done it. It is not fast, and I certainly haven't done it on full battle rattle under, the guys being shot at. It is not a quick maneuver, and this guy stood there, returning fire, and literally providing cover for them with his body. As the casualty was loaded into Sergeant First Class Salih's team returned to cover, he alone remained, so they all ran back. They got the casualty on board. They ran back to cover. He stayed in front of that aircraft so the flight crew wouldn't get hit, so that the casualty wouldn't be hit, so that the guys loading him on the helicopter wouldn't be hit. Just an amazing act of courage. He returned a high volume of fire and constantly repositioned himself to act as a physical shield to the aircraft and its crew. So let's not pretend how that's not amazing. I mean, some of you hear this, you think, cool, whatever. This guy was staring down who knows how many well-in-place insurgents, firing back and constantly shifting his body so that the people behind him would be safe. He eventually hit in the upper torso and refused to be medevaced at that time so that they could get the guy back for medical treatment. Ended up giving his life for that. He deserves to be remembered. The actions there are completely mind-boggling, yet at the same time, something that we can learn. That something, you do this, not everybody, but you do stuff like this for your team. This is why relationships are so vital to life in general, because you may never have to do this, but when you have people that count on you and who you count on, you have something to live for each other. And not just talking about a squad of soldiers. I'm talking about any relationship in life. It's so much better than just cutting yourself off, being alone. It gives life more meaning. And it gave his death even more meaning here. He's not the only one. Next, I want to talk about Staff Sergeant Robert J. Miller. So Staff Sergeant Robert J. Miller goes on to say, while conducting a combat reconnaissance patrol through Magoradish Valley, Staff Sergeant Miller and his small element of U.S. and Afghan National Army soldiers engaged a force of 15 to 20 insurgents occupying prepared fighting positions. So these guys were waiting for them to come in. They were ready. Staff Sergeant with a combined U.S. and Afghan National Army, I'm guessing they might have had, 15 to 20 people themselves. So he does some heroics to get them to take care of this small ambush, right? So following the engagement, Staff Sergeant Miller led a small squad forward to conduct a battle damage assessment, probably 4 other guys. As this group neared the small, steep, narrow valley that the enemy had inhabited, a large, well-coordinated insurgent force initiated a near ambush, assaulting from elevated positions with ample cover. So let me set the stage for you on this. 5 guys, walking into a pretty narrow valley, probably, not that far across, because they were in an elevated position, and it said, later on it said they were less than 20 meters. So it's called a near ambush because you can, from anything within 35 meters, it's called a near ambush because you can lob grenades from that far at them. So the Army classifies that as a near ambush, and it's a little bit different how you deal with that. These guys were less than 20 meters. Let's put it this way. These guys were about as far, for those of you who like watching college football, these guys were about as far as the running back is to the back defender in a normal, or the safety in a normal formations. Not talking about prevent or anything like that, but normal. That's how far he was engaging from an elevated. So they're shooting on him. So any cover he can find is they still have an angle on him, and it gets crazy. Like honestly, if you want to make movies, this is what to make them on. So they were less than 20 meters from the enemy force. Nonetheless, with total disregard for his own safety, he called for his men to quickly move back to a covered position as he charged the enemy over exposed ground and under overwhelming enemy fire in order to provide protective fire for his team. So he tells the rest of the team, get back, get to safety. He charges forward. He gets shot in the upper torso. Wait till you hear this. What kind of force he charged into? Ignore the wound, he continued to push the fight, moving to draw fire from over 100 enemy firers upon himself. So, again, let me set the stage. 20 meters, so twice the length that the average college football team has to drive in 4 downs to continue their drive. And it's not linebackers he's daunting. It's 100 people, 10 times as many defenders as on a football field. over 100 people standing up, firing at him. One of them hits him in the upper chest somewhere, and he keeps going. This dude keeps going. This is American exceptionalism. This is what we should strive to be worth as American citizens. Because this is the same type most people in the military would charge into to save you. It's literally it's amazing. He did that to save his own squad. That's, again, this is why you form strong relationships with people. It'll make you act in a way that a man should in a lot of instances. I only have one more. And again, as many movies that they're making, like as many documentaries as they're making, just imagine if they made documentaries about how these soldiers got their medals of honor. Because the story seems too good to be true, you know. He charged into 100 people. 100 people. So this is Sergeant First Class Cash. It says, while on a nighttime mounted patrol near an enemy-laden village, the Bradley fighting vehicle, which Sergeant First Class Cash was commanding, was attacked by enemy small arms fire and an IED, which disabled the vehicle and engulfed it in flame. Blew it up, lit it on fire. This is nuts. This is truly nuts. After opening the driver's hatch, Sergeant First Class Cash and a fellow soldier extracted the driver, who was engulfed in the flame. During the course of extinguishing the flames on the driver and extracting him from the vehicle, Sergeant First Class Cash fuel-soaked uniform ignited and caused severe burn. So this guy was pulling out another guy after being hit by an IED, and now he's on fire. He is in flames. And take several second and third degree burns. He did not stop. No. This guy's not going to stop. Are you kidding? That would be too easy. No. He continues in aiding his fellow soldiers who are trapped in the troop compartment of the Bradley. At this time, the enemy noted his movements, probably because he was still on fire, and began to direct their fire on his position. Yeah, this dude was on fire at night, and now he's got enemy fire coming in. Despite the severe second and third degree burns covering the majority of his body, Sergeant First Class Cash persevered through the pain to encourage his fellow soldiers and ensure they received needed medical care. As if being on fire and burned doesn't necessitate medical care. When medical evacuation helicopters began to arrive, Sergeant First Class Cash selflessly refused the evacuation until all the other wounded soldiers were evacuated first. And reading into his profile, he died about a month later in Texas. I would assume from these injuries. So it's Memorial Day. Some of these stories of bravery, some of these stories of courage, of duty and honor, it's a legacy that we all need to uphold. Not only do we remember these guys on Memorial Day, not only should we remember and honorate and venerate them, but we should also see that their sacrifices probably never have to be at their level, but we should realize that, hey, this is a blueprint for living an honor-bound life, one of duty and loyalty and so on and so forth. So just remember that this Memorial Day, that these people who died for the country that they loved, let them be an inspiration to you. And maybe all of us will be just a little bit better after that. So I appreciate watching, guys. Again, tomorrow, same at the usual time, will be the usual show. But I just wanted to highlight some of these guys, the crazy stories, and just honor them for what they have done and what many others have done. It doesn't take a medal of honor for you to be honored on Memorial Day. These crazy stories are much better to talk about. So you guys have a great rest of your day. Enjoy the beach. Enjoy whatever, your day off. And just remember that there are many sacrifices that were made for you to be here. Millions in World War II, millions in the Civil War, thousands and thousands and thousands in the Revolutionary War. You wouldn't be where you are without many people dying for you. So have a great rest of your day, and happy Memorial Day.